Good morning and welcome to our time of reflection for today. Now, what are your opinions of Prince Harry and Meghan, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and particularly of their decision a couple of years ago to step back from royal life and to move to California? Was it okay or not okay? And why? Okay, our gospel reading is taken this week from Luke chapter 23, verses 33 to 43, and it says this. When they came to the place that is called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there with the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. Then Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. And they cast lots to divide his clothing. And the people stood by watching, but the leaders scoffed at him, saying, He saved others. Let him save himself if he is the Messiah of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine, and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was also an inscription over him saying, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanging there kept deriding him and saying, Are you not the Messiah? Save yourself and us. But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed have been condemned justly, for we are getting what we deserve for our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. He replied, Truly I tell you, today you will be with me in paradise. Now, as ever, I'd love to know what you came up with in that opening discussion, because there is certainly an awful lot of divided opinion about Harry and Meghan and the decision that they made. Some people think it was the worst decision in the world, that an English prince should never step back from royal life and should certainly never leave England to live elsewhere, and that they were very unfair to other members of the royal family. And there are other people who think that the decision was totally up to them, and that if they were struggling with life here so much, then why shouldn't they move somewhere else? Because whether it's right or whether it's wrong, we in England have very particular expectations for how our royal family should live and work, whether that's the king, prince, princess, duke, or duchess. Now, if you hold in your mind how controversial Harry and Meghan's decision has been, then maybe it might help you to have some idea of why it was so controversial when Jesus, the expected and prophesied king, lived his life in a way that was totally different to how people expected the Messiah would live. The Messiah wasn't supposed to be a poor, homeless, wandering religious teacher. He didn't do it right. And the Messiah was most definitely not supposed to be captured, tried, beaten, and then put to death on a Roman cross, dying the death of a traitor to the empire. That wasn't how things were supposed to go. But here's the thing. Christians believe that Jesus was and is a king, but that his kingdom is not of this world. We believe that Jesus reigns in glory in heaven, that he is over and above all the powers of the world, and that his heavenly kingdom lasts forever. That's why we continue to celebrate the feast of Christ the King even by reading and rereading the story of his dreadful death here on earth. This gospel reading is supposed to be unsettling. It's supposed to make us think. It's supposed to encourage us to compare our ideas of kingship to the type of kingship that Jesus demonstrated, because he didn't come to lord it over us and to behave like an earthly king. Instead, Jesus came to be a servant leader. In other words, the way that he showed his glory was by getting down in the dust and putting the needs of other people first, always. That is the king that we celebrate in the person of Jesus Christ. And that is the type of kingship that, as Christians, we seek to emulate and model our own lives on. Someone who puts others first and serves their needs before our own, no matter the cost. So, my challenge to you this week in all of these comparisons of the different models of kingship is to consider, how can you live up to the example that was set for us by Jesus, the servant king, by putting other people's needs ahead of your own? Is there a way that you can, at some point in the coming days, demonstrate that you are a follower of Jesus by finding ways to live your life in the way that he did, by taking care of others first? That's your challenge for this week. So as we finish these reflections, let's say one last prayer for Christ the King. Eternal Father, whose Son, Jesus Christ, ascended to the throne of heaven, that he might rule over all things as Lord and King. Keep the Church in the unity of the Spirit and in the bond of peace, and bring the whole created order to worship at his feet, who is alive and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. I'll see you soon.